Hello and welcome to another trip report. In today's video we will be flying from Stockholm Bromma Airport to Brussels on board Brussels Airlines Airbus A319. Here you can see it pulling in onto stand next to this Brussels Regional RJ100. This aircraft has since been retired. Check out my trip report from flying with them between Gothenburg and Stockholm. Here is the terminal and the taxi rank outside. Bromma is a small yet functional terminal, and I have to say, from a passenger perspective, it was my first time flying through here, and the experience was one where security was very quick, and then once through, there were a few views overlooking the apron. However, you do get excellent views as you walk out toward the aircraft and then onto the apron. Here, our Airbus A319 is waiting for us. This flight was taken approximately 2 weeks before the lockdown across Europe restricted travel and hampered any further flying.
Any moment from now, the loading is ongoing as well, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. So once those passengers will arrive, we will be able to close our doors, be on our way to Brussels. The flight time 2 hours. The weather over there is cloudy with a temperature of 12 degrees. We get back to the descent towards the destination. In the meantime, enjoy the flight and enjoy the service. Mesdames et messieurs, votre commandant, bienvenue à bord de Airbus A319 à destination de Bruxelles. On attend encore juste quelques passagers. J'espère qu'ils vont arriver assez vite. Chargement de bagages est quasi terminé également. Donc dès que les passagers sont là, on devrait pouvoir fermer nos portes. Le temps de vol vers notre destination, 2 heures à la météo à Bruxelles, nuageuse avec une température de 12 degrés. Nous reviendrons vers vous juste avant d'entamer notre descente vers notre destination. Nous vous souhaitons un très agréable vol. Dames en heren, u gezegd vroeger welkom aan boord van deze Airbus A319 met bestemming Brussel. We zijn bijna klaar met het inschrijven, nog een paar passagiers die moeten afkomen. Wij hopen dat die...
In the seat pocket in front of you is a sick bag, the safety card for Brussels Airlines A319 and A320. Another quick look at the quiet cabin. I had an entire room to myself, so I was quite pleased, I have to admit. The legroom was very good, even though I am just over 6 foot. So a quick browse through the magazine. Of course, there was the Brussels Airlines model. Many drinks and snacks are available at fairly reasonable prices, although I would say that overall they are more expensive than Ryanair, and they are more expensive than EasyJet. So yes, the prices may be okay, but they're not perfect. And in the grand scheme of things, for what I would pay on board with Brussels Airlines for a simple sandwich and drink, I could get myself a hot meal deal with Ryanair for €10 along with a snack. I was fortunate on the later flight in the evening, as they reduce the price of their wraps and sandwiches to over half the price. So that later evening flight to Edinburgh, I did buy something on board.
Should it fall into an inaccessible area of your seat, please do not move or
One
adjust your
feature
seat
that
and
impressed me
contact
about this
the
aircraft was the fact that the seats reclined. Granted, only a little bit, but still, they do
Sign
recline.
is eliminated and also throttle plate when you're seated. In the event of loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask...
Soon it was time to start the engines and get ready to taxi to the active runway at Stockholm Bromma Airport.
Adjust if necessary and breathe normally. Please secure your own mask before assisting children or other passengers. A life vest is stowed in a pouch under your seat. Should you need to use it, take the life vest out of the bag. Place the vest over your head. Tighten the strap around your waist by clipping to the center buckle in front and then pull firmly. Inflate or pull the card with the red tab when you're leaving the airplane. If you're using the overwing exits, only inflate after leaving the plane. If you need more air inside your life vest, blow into the rubber tube. There's a safety breather card in the seat pocket in front. Please read it carefully as it contains important information, especially if you're seated next to one of the emergency exits. and in the unlikely event of an emergency landing, the brace position shall be adapted as shown on the safety briefing card. Please comply with all audio signs and pictograms, listen to and follow the instructions given by the crew. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your attention and we wish you a very pleasant day.
Soon the flaps were extended, and a quick glance out the window overlooking Athens ATR 72-600. I have to admit, the airline has a very eye-catching livery. Looking back at this footage does fill me with a little bit of sadness, as this airline has since filed for bankruptcy due to the current worldwide pandemic. The fact that I got to fly with this airline at the start of March, only a week or two before the lockdown, makes me think I was very, very fortunate. Still, it's time to taxi for our departure to Brussels. Here you see Braathens Regional RJ85 Sierra Echo Delta Julia Oscar, along with a Fokker 50. Sadly, the RJ85 has been flown to Norwich and is now in storage where it awaits its fate. The likelihood of it flying again is very unlikely. Taxiing to the runway at Stockholm Bromma allows you views of all Braathens regional aircraft parked up. Here you can also see a Sunair Scandinavia Dornier 328 jet. Up on the left hand side of this hill here was where we spent the day plane spotting and filming the many daily movements that could be seen at Bromma. Sadly though, this again is a thing of the past, with no aircraft movements having taken place since the week that we were there. This is us lining up runway 30 at Stockholm Bromma. This is going to be an exciting takeoff. Let's go. climbing out, looking over the wing, I had a good cry. Just thinking about everything that was going on in the world, looking out over the clouds, with so few people on board the flight. It just seemed as though there was something big afoot, and not knowing whether or not there would be any further chances to fly in this year, it was quite emotional, flying to Brussels to then head back to Edinburgh. But yeah. Shortly after takeoff, the in-flight service began. It is good to know that Brussels Airlines accepts cash only or credit cards. So here's my Belgian waffle, along with a nice cup of tea. I do like it when napkins have the airline's logo on it. To me it just adds a nice little touch. My simple in-flight guide to making a cup of tea. Place the tea bag into hot water and allow the hot water to do its work for at least 5 minutes. After brewing thoroughly, put your milk in and sugar as to your taste. And there you go, an in-flight guide to making a cup of tea. Simple. As we continued our flight to Brussels at a cruising altitude of 38,000 feet, we enjoyed beautiful views overlooking Sweden. The further west we went, the clearer the skies became. Here on our left-hand side, we're looking over toward Ängelholm in Sweden. Further down, as we went further west, we got a beautiful view looking over Copenhagen and Malmö and the bridge which connects Denmark and Sweden. It really couldn't have been a better day for flying. Everything just went fantastic. As we continued our flight heading west toward Brussels, we passed north over Germany, as you've just seen from the previous clips. However, it did become a lot more turbulent the further we got closer to Belgium, and soon it was time to begin our descent. I must admit I was looking forward to landing in Brussels. However, having seen the weather forecast just before we departed, it did look as if it was going to be quite windy and quite bumpy. So it's fair to say the turbulence wasn't exactly unexpected. such a long connection in Brussels on my flight back to Edinburgh when I could have taken an earlier flight. I explained that I wanted to do a little bit of plane spotting and have a look around the airport. The cabin crew member was so helpful, kind and friendly, and offered me that if I wanted to, I could still take the earlier connecting flight to Edinburgh, as they would be operating that flight. I thanked her for her kindness in offering us the flight, but as I already explained, I wanted to spend a bit of time plane spotting at Brussels. We got chatting and spent a good few minutes having a nice discussion about where we'd each travelled and where we'd been and different things that we found enjoyable. So it was a really nice conversation, and I have to say it really made a positive impression on my whole view of the airline. A fantastic experience, and if that particular cabin crew member is watching, a huge shout out and a huge thanks from me. Soon we began to make our turn for the final approach to land on runway 25 right at Brussels Zaventem International Airport. As you can see, there was a lot of cloud as we began our final descent for the approach, and it was also very turbulent. So I was definitely looking forward to us landing. The scenery beneath us and overlooking the likes of Eindhoven various other cities on our way into Brussels was amazing as we broke through the clouds. I hope you enjoyed the approach.
to Brussels. It's now 2:30 p.m. and the outside temperature is 13 degrees Celsius. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the fasten seatbelt sign has been switched off. Be careful when you open the overhead lockers. Items may have shifted and could fall out. On behalf of Brussels Airlines, Captain Mr. Delaciesos and his entire crew, I'd like to wish you a very nice day. Thank you.
Finally, we have arrived. Welcome to Brussels International Airport. I have to say, this was my first time flying with Brussels Airlines, and I would not hesitate to recommend that you fly with them. The cabin crew were absolutely fantastic. They were so friendly, kind and helpful. The onboard service as well was good. Like I said earlier, the in-flight pricing of drinks and snacks may be a little bit more compared to European low-cost carriers. However, I do think it's what you expect nowadays, but the service itself and the onboard product was very impressive. I do look forward to flying with Brussels Airlines once the whole epidemic is over and we can get back to a new normal.
There's the time contact.
After landing, there was time for a quick visit to the flight deck to say hello to the captain. Both he and the first officer were very kind and happy to have a quick chat with us both and just talk about everything that was going on in the world, and we had a really nice discussion before we left. Once again, this was my first flight with Brussels Airlines, a fantastic airline who I can't wait to fly with in the very near future. I hope you enjoyed this trip report, folks. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you next time.